Hi everyone, my name is Sonal. I'm the co-president of the BioS Club, and today I will be interviewing David IPM, who is the Associate Vice President and Dean of Students. We appreciate your time and commitment for the students and the club. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, Sonal, and hello to everybody watching this with the BIOS Club or friends of the BIOS Club, and thanks for having me. Looking forward to this. Thanks.
Okay, so starting with the first question. Well, as a leader, how do you encourage and support the professional development of your team members?
Yeah, I love this question because as a leader, I think my job is to build or develop or create conditions for other leaders, right? So I think that's inherent in your question. So how do you support the professional development of your team? I think I would divide it into sort of three categories: people, work, and learning. So for the people, I like to think of myself as like a connector. So if I can get to understand my people's needs, desires, aspirations, goals, struggles, strengths, I can then connect them with other people on their journey who can support them with those things as well, right? So certainly I can offer all the support and challenge that I can offer, but I'm also one who would likes to, especially if my direct report displays like an interest in it, connecting them with other people in my network to help build, support for that person, like a little mastermind group. The second category is assigning or co-developing projects and work that match certainly what's needed at the college and what aligns with that person's needs, desires, strengths, and pieces that are sufficiently challenging, right? So that we can grow. So I think that's an important part of professional development. I know a lot of there are a lot of quotes out there that say much of learning happens on the job. Like it's something like 80% or plus happens on the job, and I think that happens on the job in an intentional way if we can be intentional about the projects and work that we assign. And ensure that they are appropriately challenging. And if you're going to assign like one majorly challenging project, let's not try to assign like 7 more majorly challenging projects, but set up supports and balance it. So make sure that we're looking at things holistically. Again, it's going to be unique to each person's circumstances and abilities and goals. And then the third is the actual like assigning learning tasks. There's the work, but there's also maybe what was the spirit of your question is additional professional development, whether that's like formal workshops, seminars, conferences, and professional development opportunities. So very supportive of that. We definitely have a budget for that, and so we will look at people's performance goals for the year and try to assign or approve. External learning and development that relates. Now, if budgets are limited or the person's already used that budget or prefers to use it elsewhere, there's a ton of learning professional development opportunities that can happen within the working space, like through our talent academy, for example, that we have for employees. There's one on leading people. There's one on managing people. There's tons of learning on campus. And then I'm also one to, some employees ask me about podcasts or books that I recommend for different things. And I love recommending those and sharing as well, sharing and learning from their resources as well. So resource sharing, I would say. Yeah, those are kind of some ways that I think about it.
Oh, that's great. I love how you distributed everything into categories and explained it so well.
You're welcome. My brain does it. Categories.
So the second question is, what types of leadership development programs or opportunities are available for the students within the institution, and how do these contribute to their overall growth? So in aspects of the students who are listening, I just want to know what you think are the opportunities.
Yeah, so what I'd encourage students to do, I'll start with the Centennial Leadership Academy because it's really specific to leadership, and then I'll broaden to like other opportunities. If you type into Google Centennial Leadership Academy on the Centennial website, it'll take you to a page that explains a number of our tailored to Centennial College student leadership development opportunities. There's the Digital Badge in Self-Leadership. It's a self-paced course that students can take, not for credit course. You do get recognition though, being a digital badge in self-leadership. And that is like, how becoming like finding the leader within and developing like who do you want to be as a leader, what's the impact you want to have. It takes you through reflections as well as experiential learning. So how does that contribute to your overall growth? I mean, I think any employer in the career space or as an entrepreneur, we're looking for people who have that self-awareness and who have that desire to make an impact and who know how to make that impact in a way that meets a community's need. And I think that's what leadership is all about. So anytime somebody can develop their leadership intentionally through these programs is going to support one's personal and professional development, like that sense of who am I, what's the contributions I want to make, and how do I want to grow. Those are leadership questions that any of these programs will help. So there's the digital badge, there are workshops, there's the leadership conference. I don't know if you've been there to that conference. I think you have. Yeah.
I am. I am also in the leadership badge program, and
Oh,
I was the one who volunteered as well for the launch event.
oh, awesome. What's your favorite thing about the badge so far? Yeah.
So one thing I loved was how they asked other. So there was a section where I had to ask my friends what they think about me, and I would say I had such great insights. I got to know things I didn't know about myself. I love that part.
Exactly. And like exactly. These are the things that come, the skills that come from leadership development. So you just put a great example of what when I say self-awareness, like how valuable that can be and validating and affirming, right? And now that's something that you can use to further that development or to just feel confident, right? Going into different situations and interviews or job applications. The leadership conference is a one-day intensive, and then the Toastmasters program is offered through there in terms of to support one's public speaking. We know that that's one of the most feared things that humans can do, along with like spiders in the dark. Like public speaking is up there, which is very interesting to me. It was for me for a long time. And there's a leadership library. Like if you want to do self-paced learning about leadership, that's how I would say I did a lot of that in my own upbringing in the leadership space, reading about leadership development from available resources at the college or at the university. Other than that, there's almost everything you can engage with inside your classroom and outside the classroom can be considered a leadership development opportunity. That's how I see things. Like taking on a group project, right? And going about it in a very intentional way. Like what's working with people and saying, what's our shared goal? And then working in a way as a follower, as a follower or as a leader in the front or in the back to help everybody move towards that shared goal is a leadership practice. Joining a club and contributing is a leadership practice. I think it can be small and big things. It doesn't even have to have the word leadership in it. As long as we're intentional about working together towards a shared aspiration, and displaying that commitment towards that is a practice of leadership. And the college is ripe with activities and opportunities inside and outside the classroom, on placements, in co-ops, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioned clubs, we as a bias as club, we also have various leadership opportunities, volunteering and everything.
Yeah.
And we organize so much stuff and we are proud of it. And we are thankful to Centennial for providing us with this opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome and well said. Like, I mean, working with the CCSAI and the work that the student association and the work that they do with the student clubs. And you're absolutely right. It's all about like, there are so many opportunities and you've created so many opportunities for other students. It's like a ripple effect, right? And so I like to say it's like a buffet of opportunities that it can be overwhelming and it could be like you don't know where to start. So for those of you who are listening to this, like I don't know where to start, just have a conversation with somebody that resonates with you, right? Or like Sonal or somebody else, just have that conversation and start there. Yeah.
Okay, so my next question would be, what lessons from your previous roles do you find particularly valuable in your current leadership position?
Whoop, sorry. I think we froze a little bit.
It's okay. I can still hear you though.
Oh, you can? Okay. I think I'm back. Yeah. What lessons? Ooh, that's good. That's really good. I was, yeah, I think. So I was a director in my last role, right? And so in my field, a typical sort of career progression if you're trying to move up in the hierarchy, because that's not for everybody, right? It really is. There's no one path. But if I just look at institutional hierarchy, I went from assistant to coordinator to manager to director, a few director roles to prepare, and then this AVP dean role. And I think the biggest difference from my director role to the dean role that I learned, moving up, is that not all problems, not all situations, I'll say problems, are equal. And when I was an assistant, I was most often faced with, and I'll use the Cynefin model. I don't know if folks are familiar. It's kind of like being able to diagnose what category a problem is in category, right? Like the categories. Is it chaotic? Where like COVID pandemic, think about COVID pandemic in the beginning, right? Very chaotic. There's no like right answer. There's no knowing like if I do this, then do this. Like we didn't know anything. Was it airborne or is it like, do I touch, right? Is it by touch? And then there are complex problems, meaning the problems are not fully understood, but you can kind of like take small steps and experiment to figure out, is this a good way to go, right? That's kind of like maybe later on in the pandemic. We got a better sense of what the virus is, what it isn't. And then there's the realm of complicated. And that could be like the cold virus. Like we know what it is, but there are experts and we can like read about it and we can know how to protect ourselves and how to, right? And then there's like finally the other category, the fourth one, it's really clear, obvious. If I wash my hands, I'm more likely safer, right? And when I was an assistant, most of the problems I was dealing with were in that last category, obvious or clear. And there was a best practice, right? There was a best practice that you could become an expert in, essentially. And then when I was a coordinator, similar, maybe some complicated things. Some things were more complicated, became more complicated. And so I had to do more learning. So I did my master's. In my case, I did my master's to learn more about student success. Because as we know, anything human is more complicated because humans are not like, look at our health, right? Like you change one thing and something else changes, right? Like learning is not simple. It's complicated as well. So as a student affairs educator, I needed to, in my view, acquire a skill set, knowledge base that would help me get ready for complicated problems. Now, when I moved into the later on director roles and certainly AVP role, most of the things I deal with, I don't know if it's most, but it seems like I deal with a lot of things that are in that third category now, complex, where there's no right answer, there's no playbook, there's no like guide to doing this well, right? We're all kind of trying to figure it out together and are using and relying on our past experience and ability to project and ability to collaborate to sense and probe to find meaningful solutions to meaningful problems. I'll give you examples: food security, housing insecurity, right? Student success. These are all if it were easy, we'd have solved it a long time ago, right? So just to give you an example, I think those are the lessons I've learned, like how to diagnose a problem and then deploy I can't say the right, appropriate solutions for the problem category. Because if you approach a complex problem with like the mindset of best practice, you'll be missing things and likely to do more harm than good, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Oh, that was a really good answer. As students who are doing biotech and food science and any science related field, we can kind of relate to it so much.
Yeah.
Because we have to deal with various problems as well.
Yeah, and there are very variables, right? Right?
True.
Like so right? Like so it makes it more complicated. And then sometimes it's a completely unexplored question that can have vast impacts on society or technology or environment, right? So you have to sense and probe. And you're right, that scientific mindset of testing and probing is totally there.
Okay, so my next question is, as students prepare for their leadership roles post-graduation, what skills do you believe are essential for them to navigate an evolving professional landscape successfully?
I think that's a really good question. I think self-awareness, that whole domain of self-awareness of your strengths, your values, especially your values, right? Where you would thrive in a workplace. What makes you not thrive? What makes you, what affects your mental health? All these things. Self-awareness, I think, is a really critical skill. to develop, and I think can be developed through these programs we've been talking about, through involvement, through engagement, but reflection, right? You can, if you are only just doing, it's going to be hard to develop self-awareness. I think you have to explore, put yourself into slightly uncomfortable situations, appropriate uncomfortable situations, I mean, and then reflect on how you're reacting or responding to those situations, and that helps you develop more confidence as well, right? When you develop more self-awareness. The other category is, I think, is really key to develop industry or discipline specific skills. So in biotechnology, I'm talking about the biotech skills, right? Or in photography, the photography skills. I think self-awareness, industry specific, and then lastly, I'll say emotional intelligence is really critical for any. Well, I wouldn't say critical. Okay, maybe not all fields, but I would argue it is. But maybe to be more less a word that is emotional intelligence, I think will help. Having it will help a lot no matter the field you're in, is what I mean.
Yes.
If you're working with people. So emotional intelligence is understanding. I use a Daniel Goleman definition because it's just like simple, but there are many definitions. It's this idea of understanding and managing your own emotions, and then knowing how that impacts or influences other people's emotions, right? It's picking up and sensing what may not be said. And I think any area where any work that you do that involves people, I think emotional intelligence is really key. You think about somebody who doesn't have emotional intelligence, and it's hard to work with them, right? Now, emotional intelligence may be limited by various factors, ability, disability, and so I think that's really super valid, and that's why I also think that we all need to from a universal design perspective also understand that people will come with different things and not judge as well, but to be inclusive from that perspective. So I think that we work on it based on the capacities we have, and then we also give one another grace and have the difficult conversations and set boundaries and value people for who they are to the best of our ability, right? Like, yeah.
Yes, it's amazing because I think you're the first person who said this about emotional intelligence. You made this point, and I too resonated with it, like the same. Because for me, emotional intelligence is must. So I need to resonate with people to get to know them more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I assume that the success of your club, which your club has been super successful,
True.
I think really the emotional intelligence has probably been a huge part of that success, right?
Yes.
Your ability to relate to emotionally connect with people, right? It's like not talked about enough, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. That was the last question. And we are so grateful to have your insights. And personally, I think I learned a lot from this conversation, and I'm sure the viewers will as well.
Okay, you're welcome, and thanks for the opportunity. Keep
So
up the
thank
great
you.
work.
Thank you for doing this with us.
All right.